Okay, finishing chapter 42, now I'm going to read chapter 2. Uh, mm, the strangers whom the strangers whom Bessa had spoken of arrived about an hour later. Everyone in the village came out of their houses to see the astonishing sights. Pale, unhealthy-looking men who carried large bundles and unusual-looking sticks as they marched into the center of the village. In spite of the welcoming greetings and looks of excitement on the faces of the villagers, the strangers did not smile. They smelled of danger, Amari thought. As one of them looked at her, he had eyes the color of the sky. She shuddered. However, the unusual-looking men were accompanied by warriors from the Ashanti tribe, men of her own land, men her people had known and traded with. So even if the village elders were concerned, it would be unacceptable not to show hospitality. Surely the Ashanti could explain, but good manners came first. Any occasion for visitors was a cause for excitement, so after the initial amazement and curiosity at the strange men, the village bubbled with anticipation as preparations were made for a formal welcoming ceremony. Amari stayed in the shadows, watching it all uneasy, but not sure why. Their chief, or Owa, Owofmi, Owomafi, I don't, who could be spoken to only through a member of the Council of Elders, invited the guests to sit, and they were formally welcomed with wine and prayers. The chief and the Council of Elders, made up of both men and women, were always chosen for their wisdom and made all of the important decisions. Amari was proud that her father, Komwa, was one of the elders. He was also the village storyteller, and she loved to watch the expressions on his face as he acted out the stories she had heard since childhood. "We welcome you," the chief began. "Let your yes be yes and your no be no. May you be protected from evil, and may you live to a ripe old age. If you come in peace, we receive you in peace. Heroism is the dignity of our ancestors, and in that name we welcome you." He passed the wine made from palm tree leaves to Amari's father, then to the other elders, and finally to the strangers. The one with the milk of goats and their Ashanti companions drank the palm wine from hand-carved gourds that had been decorated with ceremonial tribal designs. A gourd is a type of fruit for those who don't know. I think it's a type of fruit or food or something like that. I should just go back to reading. The newcomers then offered gifts to the chief, small ropes of sparkling beads unlike anything Amari had ever seen, casks of wine, and lengths of fine cloth so shiny and smooth that Amari marveled. She knew no human could have woven it. No real explanations for their presence had been given yet. But with the exchange of gifts, this feeling of unease began to lessen. Everyone knew that the dancing and drumming would soon begin. Ceremony was important. Business matters always followed proper celebration. It was not yet the time for questions. First came the stories, Amari reminded herself, starting to feel excited. As chief storyteller, Amari's father was highly respected. Komwa knew every story, every proverb, every bit of tribal history ever told or sung or drummed by her people. He spoke at each birth, funeral, and wedding, as well as unexpected special occasions like this. Sorry, I'm just confused because I'm pretty sure Komwa is meant to be the name of Amari's father, but at the end of the sentence, It says they knew every bit of tribal history ever told or sung or drummed by her people. Oh, it's saying her people and Amari's people. Okay, sorry, I'm dumb sometimes. The villagers crowded around him in anticipation, although even the youngest child knew by heart every story he would tell. The stranger sat politely and waited. Let me tell you of the wickedness of Chief Agokali, her father began. He was a wicked, wicked man. Wicked, the people responded with enthusiasm. He would give the evil people impossible jobs, like weaving baskets out of sand. Impossible! The villagers responded almost in unison. The evil people finally found a means to escape from the wicked ruler, Koma recounted. The people crept out through a hole in the wall and fooled the soldiers of Chief Agokali. And how did they do that? He asked the crowd, who of course knew the question was coming as well as the answer. They walked backward in the dirt, the people responded enthusiastically. And so they did, Komla said, ending his tale with a tapping on his drum. They walked backward on the dirt path, so their front footprints looked like the prints of someone arriving into the village, not departing. He looked over at Amari as he finished the tale with a wink he saved for her alone. Everyone in the small community, including Amari, laughed and clapped their hands at the familiar story. Amari loved her father's stories, and the sound of his deep, gr- gravelly voice had always made her feel safe. Whether he was whispering silly noises in her ear, speaking formally in a meeting of the elders, or chatting with affection with her mother. To the family's great amusement, Como would sometimes sing to them in their small hut after the evening meal. You sound like a monkey in pain, Amari's mother would tell her husband fondly. But when he was telling stories, his voice was magical. Amari could listen to him all night. The feeling of tension faded. The drumming would come next, and after the storytelling, this was Amari's favorite part of her village's celebrations. Amari looked around for Bessa. He was the assistant to the village master artsman, the one responsible for the creation of all the dances and drum rhythms. She knew Bessa would be anxious to show off his skills on the drum. He had carved and painted. He had carved and painted himself. Amari, proud of how devoted Bessa was to learning the rhythms, he told her once, You know, Amari, the drums are not just noise, they are language. They are pattern of the rhythm of our lives. He had no need to look at his hands to produce the drum sounds that lived within him. She loved to watch Bessa stare into space, smiling as he drummed. But as he drummed, lost in the rhythms he created. Oh, sorry. Uh, as soon as the master drummers started playing, everyone in her village felt the call. The younger boys, whose fingers itched to show their skills, grabbed their own small drums and, and joined the beats. Villagers began to get up and move to the rhythms. Bessa played with the confidence and skill he always did. Amari's eyes were only on him. Her heart beat faster as Bessa's fingers caressed the sounds out of his skin-covered drum. The drum beats echoed in the approaching darkness. The fire in the center of the assembly area glowed on the faces of the dancers, mostly younger children and women at first, but soon nearly but soon nearly everyone in the village joined in, even the old ones whose toothless grins spoke their happiness. All spoke to the spirits of their joyous movements. Their bodies swayed, their hands clapped, their feet stomped in glorious frenzy, all to the rhythm of the drums. Now I'm going to go load up PDFs that way. You can all see what the rhythm is supposed to be. Up at 6 o'clock. Ba ba la bo da. Ba ba la bo. Oh no, that's them singing. Oh god. Ba ba la ba do ga we do. The word the words are sounds are words from deep within, from a place that was lost now found. So ba he we do so ma do da so so. Sound is self, you is we. Sound is past, is now, is so. So bo he we do so so so. From remembered past to forgotten. Tomorrow drum talk throbs breathes life. So, speaks song sings words ba ba la ba do ga we do. Warriors pause, maidens slay, elders, children rejoice. Thrum to the heartbeat, thrum to the heartbeat. Ba ba la ba ga we do. That wasn't me making random sounds. That was actually the book. I think it's this. No, that's not it. Here it is. Right here. Hold on a minute. Am I still recording? Oh no. Okay, great. I'm only recording on this tab. Oh boy. So I can't show the song that I just spent singing. Okay. Ugh. Anyways, Kwasa is round and brown as a kola nut danced with the rest of the children, gleefully spinning in the dust. Amari watched him and remembered how he had once captured a small bird and copied its movements, flapping his arms like wings, telling her with much laughter that he intended to learn how to fly. And as Kwasa stomped and glided through the dust that evening, it seemed to Amari that he really was flying. He ran over to Amari then, breathing hard with excitement. "Come," he said, grasping her arm and trying to pull her into the dancing. "Why do you hide in the shadows? Come dance for the strangers." She pushed Kwasi away gently, reminding him she was no longer a child. She was to be married soon, and she preferred peeking at Bessa, who stood behind his waist-high drum on the other side of the fire, watching her as well. The drum beats rippled in the darkness. The dancers swayed and stomped on the hard-packed earth, and Amani's people clapped and laughed as the firelight glimmered in the night. The first explosion came from the end of one of the unusual weapon sticks the strangers carried, louder than any beat of even the largest drum. It was followed by a cry of horror. The chief had fallen off his seat, a huge red bleeding hole in the center of his chest. More explosions followed in rapid succession. Then everyone was screaming. Confusion and dust swirled throughout the village. Amari watched aghast as a mother with her baby wrapped on her back tried to flee, but both mother and child were clubbed down into the dirt by one of the Ashanti warriors. An Ashanti! How could this be? Villagers ran blindly into the fire, trying to escape and screaming for mercy, only to be felled by the terrible fire weapons of the strangely pale men. Amari knew she should run. She knew she should try to escape into the forest, but her feet would not move. She could only stare in horror. She gasped as she watched an Ashanti grab her mother and try to put thick iron cuffs on her mother's wrists. She turned her head and followed in slow motion. Her father's bellows of rage as he leaped toward her mother to rescue her. But before he even reached her, one of the milk-faced men thrust a knife into his stomach, and Koma fell silently to the earth. Amari's mother screamed in anguish and bit her captor's hand. Enraged, she hurled her to the ground. Amari watched, unable to breathe or move as her mother's head smashed upon a rock. Amari wanted to scream, "Mother, get up, oh please, get up!" But she was unable to say a word. Her mother did not move. Amari needed her parents to come get her, to tell her to not be afraid, to run with her into the underbrush for safety. But they just lay there, their blood beginning to stain the dust. Amari doubled over in agony. Her parents were dead. She looked frantically for Bessa and Kwasi, but all was smoke and screams and death. Finally, she saw Kwasi running toward her, screaming, "Run, Amari, run!" Her feet loosened then as he reached her. She grabbed his hand and they ran wildly out of the village into what they hoped was the safety of the darkness. Sharp branches cut Mari's face as she plunged through a thick tangle of trees. The smell of sharp, acrid smoke, not of gentle hearth fires, but of flames of destruction, followed them. Birds and monkeys above them cried out in alarm, but the noise could not cover the screams of the slaughter of her people. Suddenly, Amari heard fast-moving, thudding footsteps behind them, and the whir of a spear. Kwasi held her hand tighter, and they ran even faster. Amari trying in vain to be as invisible and swift as the wind. "Fly, my baby brother, fly!" she thought desperately. "Fly away!" One moment they were leaping over a fallen log, and the next moment she heard Kwasi moan softly. Then his hand slipped slowly from hers. He slumped to the ground, a look a look of soft surprise on his small face. The spear had sliced through his whole little body. Kwasi Amari sank down beside him and held him to her. He died in her arms. She lay there in the darkness, cuddling his small, lifeless body, unable to weep, unable to run any longer. She hardly cared when she was grabbed by one of the strangers. Her arms were wrenched behind her in iron shackles with heavy, rusty chains. Between them were snapped onto her wrists. Holding them there, Mari was marched back to where the burning village had once stood so happily, grabbed by her hair and shoved into a pile of other survivors from the village. No one spoke, no one wept. They were defeated. End of chapter 2. Alright, see you in chapter 3, or when I finish chapter 36, or I don't